Cell stares down his oddly familiar Saiyan foe. He definitely does seem to have a lot of power, and interestingly enough, he found Cell the same way Cell was trying to find other continuities. So maybe the two of them have a lot more in common than he thinks, even though he knows nothing about this guy. At the very least, this should be a fun battle. Welcome to episode 9 of Cell Prime. Turles starts the battle off with Evil Saiyan. Cell is pretty intrigued by this form because usually with Saiyans, he expects some sort of different hair color, but no, his hair's just black. Although his aura is clearly very different, and his hair's longer too, so he supposes it suffices. The two start battling, and Cell can take on his Evil Saiyan form, which does impress Turles a lot. By now, his Evil Saiyan form has grown so much that it can contend with gods. It still isn't his strongest form, but impressive nonetheless. He wouldn't have expected a random person to be able to handle it. And Cell's a bit offended by this. What, he's holding back? He did all that to break through continuities and he's not even going to show his full power? What a shame. So Turles powers up once more, showing off his Infernal Saiyan form, an evolution of Evil Saiyan. This is the second stage of his power, and it's also grown ever since he's continued planting trees of might everywhere. Granted, he's already made the ultimate fruit with Boo's power in it, but he still does want to test out his other forms. It's been a while since he got to use these in battle. And if he's not going to be fighting someone like Kakarot, he needs something to pass the time after all. Cell shows off a bit more of his strength but doesn't pull out his full power just yet. He does want to gauge Turles' strength after all, especially because he doesn't know who he is. But from what he hears, this guy knows Kakarot. By any chance, does his Kakarot have some sort of green-haired form? Yeah, exactly that actually. Interesting. He doubted it was any other Kakarots. And considering he knows that one was able to break continuities on his own, it makes sense that this Turles is affiliated with him somehow. Funny enough, Cell says he just saw that Kakarot. And while he is powerful, Cell thinks he could beat him in a 1v1 pretty easily in fact. And it's starting to make sense to him too. He realizes that this Turles is from a timeline where he actually won. And because of all this, he wants Turles to stop holding back. Entertain him, show him his full power. He's gotta have something else beyond Infernal Saiyan, right? Well, sort of. His form has the same look, but the colors of it start changing, with his skin and eyes changing too. This form looks very similar to Infernal Saiyan, but it's very clear that it's not. While in Infernal Saiyan, Turles summons his Majin power. This is what he used to defeat Kakarot, and this is what he'll use to defeat Cell here too. He's glad to finally have found an opponent this strong after so long. He's been continuing to grow even stronger and stronger, trying to break into other continuities and take them over too, making them his own domain. He also has been looking for other opponents, and finally, after all this time, he's gotten what he wanted. The two clash, breaking through thousands of realities at once as they do so. This is nothing new for them, but the speed at which they do so, it's chaotic, it's reckless. They barely even exist in these realities for a bit because of how fast they're going through them. Despite knowing nothing about each other, Turles and Cell share something in common. The desire for a strong battle like this, a way for them to use their full power. Uninhibited, fighting with nothing held back, and most importantly, a 1v1. Because Cell's gotten jumped by a few people before, and it's not really as fun when they're trying to use all their abilities at once. He's confident in his power, but he's not stupid. He knows when he's walking into his setup. But this is a battle that he's been longing for. Surprisingly enough, this Turles guy can even use magic abilities too. Clearly he's no average Saiyan. He's not just all raw power. It must be that Majin side to him. They have an all-out battle. But amidst the fight, they feel some other presence nearby. Which is strange because at the speed they're moving, there's no way anyone can keep up with them, unless they're teleporting instantly. But a sword then pierces through Turles' chest, cutting right through him. He turns around seeing an unfamiliar face, but Cell recognizes it immediately. Floating there behind Turles with his hand formed into his sword, it's Kakamasu. Now, this is no problem for Turles, he simply regenerates it, with Turles asking for him to not interrupt the fight, holding up a hand, blasting him to oblivion. Which does destroy Kakamasu's body, but he pretty much instantly comes back. This is interesting. He's not supposed to have regeneration. Cell asks what he's done to himself. Kakamasu's taken matters into his own hands. The continuity patrol hasn't been effective, so he's doing things his own way now. And the first thing he did was seek out the Super Dragon Balls, wishing for immortality. That's going to help him fight Cell without injuring himself. But Cell doesn't want this 1v1 and he's pretty annoyed at someone interrupting it. He's already had enough battles where he's gotten jumped by multiple people. So he simply holds a hand out, trying to erase Kakamasu, but it doesn't work. And Kakamasu says he knew Cell had that ability. Now, Hakai's wouldn't even be a concern, but erasure would be kind of a concern. He doesn't know if Cell can completely erase things as effectively as Zeno, but he probably can at this point. So, just to be safe, he also wished for immortality to that too. With the time ring and however many Super Dragon Ball sets he needs, none of this is an issue. Although, he only made these two wishes. He did have to be careful after all, because if he wished for infinite power as well, he knows the Continuity Patrol would have gone after him and attacked him. But with this, they're not going to know he wished for immortality. That's insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Besides, his current power is good enough anyways, and he's improved it naturally. Although, he is surprised that Cell resorted to this. What? Is he getting scared? Cell's honestly surprised that he didn't try to defuse either. But Kakamasu says that's pointless now. He needs the power to defeat Cell after all. and Turles is confused, also a little bit annoyed with this too. He doesn't want some random intervening in his fight, but it does interest him because apparently that's a Kai fuse at some version of Kakarot. Weird, but actually, now that he thinks about it, that could make things more interesting. Kakamasu turns to Turles and says he won't spare him either. With Kakamasu entering the battlefield, a three-way fight begins between Turles, Kakamasu, and Cell, all drawn here by Turles, the Saiyan who ate the universe, the immortal Supreme Kai of Time, fighting against the ultimate perfect life form, Cell Prime. Kakamasu is clearly disadvantaged in terms of power. In terms of raw strength, the other two have him beat. However, he is immortal and has the best magical abilities of all of them, although the other two are pretty good with magic too. The three even try to absorb each other's power, all using the same type of magic, counteracting. With the three of them all doing this at once, they each simply cancel each other out, exerting so much power that it shatters the reality that they're in, sending them to another one. The three of them enter an all-out battle. Now, Kakamasu tries his best to not destroy anything around him. He still has some sort of standards, but at the same time, he needs to do anything to stop Cell Prime. Any damage that he does now, it could simply be restored. Of course, he'll have to use the Super Dragon Balls in each individual continuity to do so, but that won't be a problem for him. Cell Prime is a bigger threat than anything. The Continuity Patrol will see it and will agree with him. But the Patrol is watching pretty closely, especially now with his involvement. At some point, the three stop fighting. There's another power approaching. Great, who is this now? And Kakamasu recognizes it immediately. It took him long enough to get involved. A fourth warrior appears. Well, also the fifth and the sixth, but they're just watching. The strongest patrolman, Piccolo, appears, with Cooler and Kakarot 2 nearby, there to watch alongside him. He congratulates everyone here. Now the threat is so big that it's his problem. Usually he handles other big things, but Cell Prime's kind of moved up the priority list. Especially now with Kakamasu getting involved, they're not just going to stand by as a patrolman goes rogue. Kakamasu's being far too reckless after all. So Piccolo's not only here to stop the other two, but to stop Kakamasu. Not kill him, just stop his rampage. And Piccolo's mainly here for him. Now, Piccolo still hasn't fully regained his power. Before, he had power so great that he could basically rewrite anything. There's probably people in other continuities that will try to accomplish the same things as him, but that's what he's there for, to stop that same sort of stuff, stopping anyone from becoming that strong. But since he overwrote his own power permanently, he's not going to be doing the same things that he did before. He was able to manipulate everything on a whim, just like Super Shenron, and he was unrestricted by continuity. And while his power isn't to that level right at the moment, he still does have great power and magical abilities, and he can still grant wishes. They're still bound by continuity, but they can affect him. So sure, he can't just wish people to be erased and stuff, especially someone as strong as this. But he does have other tricks up his sleeve, and Cell welcomes this, a 1v1v1v1. To try and entice Piccolo to join, he launches a powerful blast at the warrior, expecting him to power up, but no, he doesn't. Piccolo simply stays in base, and he gets decimated. Nothing's left of him. Wait, what? That was the strongest warrior that he was supposed to fight? He died just like that? That can't be. And Cell's right. It wasn't just that. Piccolo then starts regenerating, wishing for himself to come back. You see, he's not exactly immortal, since that kind of stuff doesn't entice him, but effectively he is. He can't use infinitely powerful wishes to affect others, but he can use them to affect himself. Right then and there, just before Cell's blast hit, he wished to be fully healed, which does kind of suck because now he has a cooldown on the wishes. But it's a good way to display his power to Cell. Now he knows what he's dealing with. Turles then tries to steal some of Piccolo's power with magic, trying to absorb it from him, but Piccolo simply counters with his own magic. Does he think that party trick's gonna affect him after what he just did against Cell? That's child's play for him. What a show-off. A dragon-shaped aura flares up around Piccolo, and while he's busy powering up, Turles tries to take this as an opportunity. With everyone distracted, he then focuses on Kakamasu, extending a piece of himself out like Majin Buu, trying to absorb all of Kakamasu's power, making it his own. But he's not nearly quick enough, especially with Piccolo there. Piccolo then simply vanishes from sight, and faster than an instant, despite Turles having already absorbed Kakamasu, he separates the two of them with ease, then freezes Turles with one hand, and Kakamasu with another. He then glares over at Cell Prime to freeze him, but he's gone. And Piccolo chuckles to himself a bit. He expected that. Cell Prime clearly knows when he's cornered, and it must have pained him to leave a fight like that. It must have really hurt his ego. He then looks over at Kakamasu, asking if he'd like to be unfused. He could do that right here and now. It's pretty easy for someone like him. Force Spirit Fission is nothing to him, even for a Kai like them. But Kakamasu says he needs his power, although Piccolo thinks it's too much. Clearly it's just hurting him, if anything. Turles is barely able to break free from Piccolo's grasp, trying to attack him, but then someone steps in to stop him, and his jaw drops. In front of him, he sees Kakarot too. This isn't the same exact Kakarot that he fought. He is from a separate timeline after all. But they did have the same beginning, and up to a certain point, their stories did go the same. As far as he's concerned, the person in front of him is the Kakarot that he knows. And the same goes for Kakarot too. This is the Turles that he knows. Kakarot smirks. Long time no see. And Kakarot asks Piccolo if he could fight Turles for a bit. He's got the Cell Prime stuff under control, doesn't he? And Piccolo says it'll be fine. He's gonna take Kakamasu back to the Time Nest too. He'll let Turles and Kakarot have their little reunion, and he expects Kakarot to come back soon. Cooler is also watching nearby too, remembering Turles from his own encounter with Kakarot. He did have to fight him briefly after all. You know, he's gonna stay here and watch to make sure everything goes okay. Besides, they do need to deal with this threat after all, so despite it being personal for Kakarot, this is something the Continuity Patrol needs to handle anyways because of Turles breaking all these continuities at once again. Piccolo's gonna go and handle Cell. He knew that he'd leave amidst all that chaos, but it's fine. He'll be able to track him down again. But once more he reminds Kakamasu, the whole reason he was here in the first place was because of him going rogue. So they still will need to deal with that after all. And Kakamasu tells Piccolo to not play around with this. Cell Prime's already grown far too strong, and he's still being reckless. What they've done so far isn't enough to stop him. Even with all the other people they've recruited too, it's still not doing anything. They need to do more. And Piccolo tells him not to worry. He promises this will work, especially because Cronoa finally assigned him to handle this. Everyone else has grown strong enough to handle Piccolo's other work, and Cell's grown so strong that he's the top priority now. Piccolo and Kakamasu leave, returning to the Time Nest, as Cooler watches the two Saiyans fight. Turles is glad to see Kakarot once more, growing this strong, and Kakarot says he thinks the same. He wouldn't have thought he'd get to encounter Turles again. Although, he is a bit disappointed. He's disappointed that Turles tried to steal his foe, because Cell Prime was going to be his opponent, and Turles laughs it off. It looks like they have only one way to settle this. Whoever wins this battle gets to fight Cell later on. And you know what? Kakarot agrees with those conditions. He defeated Turles once, and it won't be an issue defeating him again. Especially with his power now. Turles says it's kind of funny. He was about to say the same exact thing to Kakarot. As the two begin their battle, Cell continues his escape, trying to get as far away as possible, masking his presence in the process too. All of this is giving him an idea though. That three-way battle was pretty fun. And there is an idea that he's had for a while, but he's never actually pursued it. It involved the Cell games. He would love to have some sort of Cell games of his own, but first, he does sense someone following him and needs to deal with that. Honestly, he expected this presence to join them in the battle, and surprisingly enough, Turles didn't even notice it. Maybe even Kakamasu. Cell must have better perception than them. But throughout all those continuities, something was following them. And he wants that person to finally come out, just so Cell could deal with him and get that out of the way. And you know, it's pretty interesting. From all the timelines Cell split, Cell only fought one other villain from a timeline that he personally split. Of course, Turles comes from a split timeline, but that was Kakarot and Turles' fault, not Cell's. And sure, Cell's not splitting timelines on accident anymore, but he's surprised that he's faced no other warriors from split timelines. But now, it may finally be the time. Cell might have birthed an opponent just like him and hadn't even realized it, and it's been so long that it completely escaped his thoughts. He starts putting the pieces together. How could he have forgotten this? This whole time, the opponent he was looking for, it was right in front of him. It was someone that he's fought, someone that he's known about. Someone who became a copycat, a mirror match to him. Even though Cell has fought another version of Cell before, that wasn't a true mirror to him. What he's about to face is going to be his true rival, someone he completely forgot about, someone he didn't expect at all. Way back in one of Cell Prime's first battles, he ended up splitting a timeline, and while one of the timelines got ruined, the one that rose from it gave birth to a new villain, one who knows all about Cell, and one who's grown strong enough to finally track him down. Cell arrives in an empty continuity. The patrol shouldn't find him here, as long as they don't break into other realities. And he waits. A portal opens in front of him, and a familiar face peers through. And after this long journey, Cell faces his ultimate opponent, one who's just like him, Moro Prime. This is where we'll leave off for now. What do you guys think about this part? What's going to happen next time? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel and shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.